focusing on.
Okay.
Self-love. You know, we've spoken much about self-love. Now, would you have thought self-love to be connected to patience?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's interesting. You know, at first glance, patience, what's patience got to do with self-love?
Oh, for sure. For me, it does.
Patience absolutely about capital B patience is absolutely about pacing.
You're cutting in and out.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Erica-Jayne seems to mess up my connection for some reason. I don't know. She puts out vibes and things, radiation or something. I don't know. Those supermodel emanations messes with my phone's connectivity. So I have to switch to the cell phone here. It was fine up till now.
Yes. Now, yes, it is.
Amazing how that works.
It's fine, absolutely fine.
Being a superpower and all of this. Why is my sound all funny now? All right. I'm not sure why I'm getting feedback loop.
I don't know.
Beena, I got a mute.
No, I was on mute before.
Yeah, there's two of you in here, and one of them isn't muted, so that could be why.
Well, I'm always two. One is on the phone and one is on the computer, but the computer is muted. You see?
No, there's no mute on either one for me.
Yes.
Oh, it showed mute by me. That's weird. That's very strange.
So it is not mute.
I unmuted it and I clicked mute again. I shouldn't be mute on the diamond because that's where I'm talking, but on the picture I'm mute. I can see it. No,
they're both diamonds. Oh, there we go.
Oh.
Yeah, both of them were diamonds.
Yes, now it is.
There were two. There were two diamonds. Oh, I see. Oh.
Still.
Ah, very strange. Yes, Beena.
Yeah, I can still hear an echo. That's weird.
Me too. I don't know why. The universe today. It's like, hello, just as soon as Erica-Jayne came, all that superpower energy of us has made everything haywire.
Well,
too amazing, too amazing. Hold on. Let me leave and come back. Leave meeting.
Yeah. This is really interesting that why is this happening now?
no telling.
It was nothing. And we were so smoothly doing this. Okay. Yes, now it's clear. Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. No, I'm still hearing twice.
Oh, yeah, no, you're right.
It's Erica-Jayne, I'm telling you.
No, come on. It's you're
Beena.
No, I'm muting myself, okay?
Yep, I just tried muting myself and I could still hear the echo too. That's really weird.
I know what's wrong. I know what's wrong.
No, it's like a story playing in the background.
I fixed it. I was muted on the computer, but the speakers were on for whatever reason. They came on. So the speakers was feeding back into the phone. I didn't really understand why. For whatever reason, it decided to change the speakers on the computer to something it should be which doesn't work. So which I don't need now actually. My audio Audio only microphone.
Okay. Okay.
Works. That mic is very good for the doing the audio for the slides. All right. All right. So now we're all good and okay. Brilliant. All right. So patience is about appreciation, right? It's about appreciation, a connectivity to just life and everything and in general. So I made a quote actually. When we're in patience, we are actually in appreciation. Thus, we are in joy. We are in peace, and we are in love. We are in the rightness of the world. We are thus in attunement, and therefore all is good and right in the world and life. Yes?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So if we are in patience, we are in attunement. That's the main key here, right? If we're in capital P patience, we're not going too fast, we're not going too slow. Everything is right in the world. We don't expect the world to be different to what it is because we're patient. It's all right. Yes. So patience is not a waiting, because that implies that it's some kind of a stress. It is an acceptance and a joy and an appreciation. It's a state of appreciation, no, capital P patience.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So relate this to ourselves. If we now connect in the context of self-love, and we say, how does patience factor into self-love? Because if we truly are self-loving in the entirety of ourselves, we have to love who we are at current, but we also have to love our moreness. Yes.
Right.
And if I'm patient, I know my moreness is going to come into being. Yes. True. Which means if I'm truly patient, it makes it really easy for me to self-love, because now I'm loving my moreness as well as who I am. I might have trouble loving who I am right now, but I don't have any problem loving my moreness.
Right.
So it makes self-love really easy, you know?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Very easy, very simple, and almost mandatory. How can you not love your moreness? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So when you connect patience in this way to self-love, and then the self-love really becomes something that you kind of have to do. It's quite a big shift. I always struggle with it a little bit. It's like, man, there's something missing here. That was the missing link. It's that connection to including our moreness in our self-love. It was huge for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Big shift. Big shift. Very simple, but the big shift. Yeah. Yeah. Very easy way to really connect that, patience through via celebration and appreciation to self-love. Yeah. And, you have patience to know that your moreness will come at some point. It's been doing it in drips and drabs all our lives. So, sooner or later. So I can love that side of me. Yeah. I can include that in my understanding of self-love. Makes it very simple. Very cool. Very cool. Just a simple little thing, but I did like that that quote on, I'll put it in chat, just to bring that entire connectivity of why patience is a superpower.
Right.
Yeah. I got two of them that we spoke about. It just was so powerful today coming up. So I thought, I just want to share that. I like to share the stuff like that. It's very cool. All right, there we go. Brilliant, brilliant. So that's what we've been focused on.
I love it.
Big time.
Love it.
Yeah, oh, that's very cool. Fun stuff.
Okay. Got it. Added it to my notes.
Yeah, I like that too. Patience is the appropriate appreciation and usage of time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we see, patience as appropriate time usage or time appreciation. It's not just time usage, but also time appreciation. This is patience.
Sure.
you know, we unfortunately tend to have this idea or belief of patience as being something that's onerous, but that's not patience. If patience is in any way onerous or stressful, it's not patience, not capital P patience, right? Yeah. So patience is absolutely a celebration of the rightness of now.
Right. Yeah.
No matter how fast or how slow you're going, either way.
Yeah. I love that.
Very, very cool. Very cool. I like that.
Very cool. I love it.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's a show, you know, it's so small, so obvious, but just putting it into that context, it's like, oh, wow, oh yeah, wow. And it suddenly connects everything to everything. You know, it's so critical, obviously, to capital H hearing patience. You can't, it's impossible to practice capital H hearing without patience, as we'll see when we start doing it.
Right.
But also impeccability. If your timing is out, if you're rushing, mostly what happens when we rush, our attention gets focused. Yes.
Our attention gets focused. Yeah.
Focused and narrowed, I should say, gets squashed, gets compressed. Yeah. You get kind of a tunnel when it comes to your attention, you know, so you actually end up, when you get rushed, you actually end up going slower.
Well, and it's interesting because I think a lot of times when I get rushed, my attention maybe does the opposite thing. Like just the fact of feeling rushed makes it where I'm not focusing my attention properly. Like I'm too consumed with rushing to really.
That's what I mean.
Like I feel like it's a broadening though for me. Like it's a broadening of focus instead of rushing, sort of encouraging me to like, okay, you know, I have a specific task that I need to get done. It sort of makes me go.
So you see what I'm saying, that the patience in that situation, you see how patience leads to an elasticity of time. You watch the really good quarterbacks, when they drop back like that, they scan that whole field, they're assessing everything. They have awareness that's both spotlight and floodlight awareness. Yes.
Right.
But in that few, we see literally maybe 2-3 seconds. But for them, it's like minutes are going by. Yes. Time is elastic, in other words. Yeah.
True.
And that's something. But it only happens if you have a complete trust in time. In other words, which is patience. Yeah.
Right.
No matter how short or how long it is, you trust it to be appropriate either way. You trust it's enough. You trust you're okay. You trust that it's not going to be stressful. Yeah.
Right.
So trust enhances alacrity. Patience, in other words, which is trust of time. So patience, capital P, patience enhances alacrity thus. Yeah. And patience is nothing but time trust.
Right.
I like that. I like that. I guess I'll add that to my quotes there. Patience is time trust.
Absolutely. Makes sense.
Also, we were saying, I think I have that earlier. Patience, capital P, patience as a formula equals wisdom.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now, how do we connect that? Because isn't wisdom the ability to use what you have appropriately, and not just what you have, but to find the appropriate solution or ability to behave and act for a particular solution, but not in the context of skills and abilities. This is not wisdom. Finding the screwdriver to match the screw, okay, it's a slot screwdriver, Phillips screwdriver, that's not wisdom. Right? That's not wisdom. That's just practical knowledge or common sense, or whatever you want to call it, or skills and abilities, training, craftsmanship. That's not wisdom. So wisdom is about right living. Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can have the idea of impeccability, but without patience, you cannot use your impeccability. So when I'm saying patience is wisdom, it's really, okay, you got to unpack patience and what comes next. If you are patient, you are going to understand that you need to use your energy appropriately. Because that is, of course, an appreciation of time, also energy, the ability to wait without stress. This is a good use of your energy, no?
Right.
You're not frustrating unnecessarily. So immediately, inherently in patience is already impeccability, which is now also connected to best use of energy. It is, yeah.
Yeah.
It is capital P patience as wisdom, not regular patience.
Right.
You know, capital P patience is this whole other deal. It's about appropriate time and energy management, is it not?
Yeah. There's a lot of information there, so I'm trying to unpack.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
There's a lot going on there, so
Right.
I'm
right.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to work through some of that,
Right.
but yeah.
Yeah. So if we take patience as appropriate time and energy management, because it's not just appropriate time management, but in order to be patient, we need to be able to wait without stress. Yes.
Right.
Or to accept the pace of the universe. If you're trying to rush things, you're saying you're insisting on my pacing, my timing,
Right.
my idea of, okay, so that doesn't work. I can't be patient if I'm insisting on that. I'm just arrogant, really. So isn't that the acceptance of the pacing of the universe? Isn't that wisdom right there in and of itself?
Yeah.
Because that's attunement, and attunement too is wisdom, no?
Yeah. I don't know. I need to think more about what I think wisdom really is, because I think that's.
Yeah. If without the definition of wisdom, it's difficult. Okay. If we can just say wisdom as being a super sensibility, much like sobriety, I think sobriety, wisdom, pretty much the same here. So if we just say, instead of saying wisdom, you know, sobriety, we say wisdom is?
I don't know. Quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment.
Good judgment. That's a good synonym for wisdom. Good judgment, good assessment. Without having time at your disposal, forget about good judgment. Yeah, that's impossible.
I like this definition too. I don't know where this one came from, but this says the soundness of an action or decision with regard to the application of experience, knowledge, and good judgment.
There you go. There you go. There you go. All of that to me
basically is appropriateness, right?
Exactly. Exactly. The way we use appropriateness, it's synonymous with wisdom.
Right.
Exactly. And again, our appropriateness has to include time appropriateness. It's the key issue. It's key. It's key. Because if you're either too slow or too fast, forget about being appropriate.
Right.
In other words, what I'm trying to say here is that patience is the key that creates space for a good judgment, sobriety, the application of knowledge, wisdom, experience. Right? You need the space in which to do that. But space is not only a physical issue, it's also a time issue. It's more so a time issue than a physical space issue in these matters. Yes?
Right.
Because it absolutely connects to deliberateness. Yes, our appropriateness is inherently married to deliberateness. Yes, and isn't deliberateness an appropriate usage of time? It's a leveraged, wise, sensible, strategic usage of time. Deliberateness. Yes,
right.
Which makes it wisdom, but it's also patience.
Right.
A capital P, patience, is deliberateness.
Yeah.
Again, which is appropriateness, which is, sensibility, wisdom. It
Right.
is the, why I say patience is wisdom is because capital P, patience, creates the space and in time and mind and spirit and mood and energy. It creates the space for us to be sensible, to be wise, to be appropriate. So it isn't directly, it's that, so when I say equal, it's kind of rough. It's like a fractal in a way, but it is a key component that if utilized appropriately, let's put it this way, it will lead to wisdom. Yeah.
Right.
But it's also a key component of wisdom. You cannot have wisdom without patience.
Right.
And I fail to see that if we are patient, how wisdom will not automatically come.
Right.
It's kind of hard to avoid, no?
Yeah.
So automatically when we are patient, we start to be attuned. You have to be. Patience is attunement. You are a part of the world's rhythm, the great rhythm of life and energy and everything, right? This is by definition what patience is. And isn't that in itself a great sensibility? Just to be attuned to the rhythm of things. Things become obvious. You see sensibility and you see the obviousness of stuff just by doing that, no?
Right.
Also, when we do capital H hearing, you'll see how absolutely vital patience is to capital H hearing, which capital H hearing is the perception, actually, or at least the skill of creating space to actually receive, be aware of, and to connect to wisdom that's not there otherwise. Not your own, but just a greater wisdom. You're letting wisdom come to you through capital H hearing.
Right.
It's amazing. Don't even assume we have it. We just say, if I hear, it will come to me. Really fascinating. So yes, I understand we have to make little leaps here, just very tiny ones, little nudges to say, you know what, patience is there, but you just give it that little slight up and then the dominoes start falling and suddenly you end up at wisdom. It's quite amazing. It's quite amazing. Quite beautiful too. Really cool.
Yeah.
Patience is a superpower, in other words. This has been the whole theme of the day today.
Right.
Today must be Universal Patience Day.
I did.
No. What is the date today? April 8th, right?
Yep.
The day of conscience. Wow. We have to be open to the possibility of getting it all wrong. Wow. What do you make of that? Huh. As part of capital P patience, we know we might possibly have it all wrong, but so what? We know we're going to connect to the mourners and we're going to figure it out. So if we're open to that possibility, we know we are going to figure out how and what the remedy to it is and what the extra is and what changes it. So we don't worry, we don't stress about it.
Right.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Most intriguing. Beena, any thoughts and ideas on this before we get going?
This wisdom connection to patience, and also thinking about my misassociation with patience, that why I was feeling that it's a bit frustrating in the beginning. Because patience means that you have to wait, and this wait is kind of like why to wait for all these things to happen. Because when you are deliberate, you preempt, so why to wait for all these things? So it was a misassociation I had. Now when you were sharing about the wisdom, this is getting like really interesting for me. Just want to ask yourself that what is the difference just to make the obvious for myself. There's a difference between power pause and being patient.
A patience is a lifelong, permanent power pause, you could say. It's one and the same, really. A power pause is a temporary cessation in order to reassess, to be appropriate, to get our timing in check, to allow things to come. So we could say patience is doing this all the time, but we aren't actually pausing. We are just in a space where we are able to access power or moreness. Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing, except there isn't really a pause because we're already paused, really. But it's not really a pause. We are just in a different viewpoint, a different vantage point in life, where we don't get overly immersed and narrow our focus. We stay in that overview perspective. We stay in that discerning perspective, that understanding perspective, or that assessment perspective, that wisdom perspective, in other words. So it's kind of the same thing, but you know, it's just one. It's that you are not stopping like a power pause, or kind of, in a sense, really stopping everything in the moment to say, whoa, let me reassess. So it's a little bit of a retreat. But if you're already in that space, you don't need to power pause. If you're already in capital P patience, you're already in the space that capital P patience, power pause is. But it's ongoing rather than a cessation or stoppage. So they're very closely related. They're almost the same thing. The one is just always ongoing. And when you are patient, you can still do things. You can still do things quickly and with alacrity, you know, like the quarterback. So, or any football player, really, or any sportsman, they all manage time that way if they are patient, you know, because it's all about timing in sports. So, but yeah, so patience is really just the thing we are trying to connect to when we power pause, is that ability to assess, focus, connect, understand, zoom out, all of that. And that's patience, really. It's an acceptance of the awesomeness and rightness of things, and opening ourselves up to all of our tools and having them be accessible to us. Whereas, you know, when you get too focused, too rushed, too energized, you lose that, and then all stuff goes away. So patience is just about absolutely the application of appropriateness, which is what a power pause is too. A power pause is to reconnect to appropriateness, no? In all context, in all your different intents and motivations. Yeah. And isn't that what capital P patience really is? An ongoing, intimate, full connectivity to appropriateness in its full sense.
And what is wisdom?
Same thing. Same thing. The wisdom is the ability to be appropriate at will, or you could say, or, you know, regularly, consistently.
From what we were talking about earlier when we were looking at the dictionary definition, I wrote down, wisdom is the appropriate application of knowledge.
There you go. Exactly. And experience also, not just knowledge, but I guess, you know, experience, knowledge comes from experience. So yeah.
It's in 2016, Alan asked me that, okay, what is wisdom? And I asked actually Alan that what is wisdom and what is knowledge? And he, as always, he said, okay, Beena, what is knowledge and wisdom? Just write me something about this. And I was like, come on. But okay, it was my 2016, March 23rd. That was my understanding of wisdom. And I didn't look up to anything, because this is my thing, that I just want to do it first, maybe no matter how absurd, how stupid it is, but first want to try by myself. So for me, this is my writing on that time. I'm reading my email. That wisdom makes it possible for one to make assessments and judgment without being influenced by emotions, feelings, and present obvious conditions. Wisdom provides a virtual pedestal to one can look at a big picture. It was not a bigger picture at that time, or take a bird eye view. Wisdom elevates one to a next higher level of understanding. Wisdom is knowing of how, when, where, and what sort of knowledge to use to gain the best possible outcome, sometimes in not so ideal conditions. This quality of judging and assessing the subject prevents us from losses and save us from getting trapped into undesired circumstances, which is very helpful. Wisdom also eliminate or take away our amusement, surprise, and being stunned state, which is kind of result make wise person a bit lonely. So sometimes it is really interesting that we had different association about things. Like still, I feel that patience is because of so much uh, time we always have this understanding for a very longer time from the very early age that patience, being patient means that you have to be submissive and then just allow that, okay, whatever is not so pleasant happening, you don't need to react in that way. So it's a kind of association we had with unpleasant situations and just try to decompose in unpleasant situation. Undesired, you can say that, if not unpleasant, necessarily undesired situation. That's why it is a bit difficult for me to shift completely from that, because patience is a big, and still always say that it's a superpower. I'm struggling to make connection with wisdom and patience.
You know, the wisdom comes from the acceptance of life. To accept life as making sense, to accept life as awesome, magical, wonderful, as appropriate, to accept that we do not need to rush, or we do not need to go really slow, or that there's no, the pace that is being in attunement with life is appropriate and awesome. That's wisdom, is it not? Which means that we go at the pace of what is, which is again wisdom. To know that we don't need to stress about the pace of life. When we need to rush, we rush. When we need to go slow, we go slow. Whatever's appropriate. This is wisdom, which is capital P patience. Same thing. Yeah.
But when we get to rush, then it is not patience. Yeah.
Well, when we go quickly, okay, rush, you know, in the sense, not psychologically rush, but just move quickly. Like when you've got to, okay, you know, there's a fire, I got to get out of the building quickly. Okay, you know, I don't have to go slowly. Patience doesn't imply slowness. It applies appropriate time management.
Yeah,
yes, which
exactly,
is wisdom.
Yeah, exactly as Erica was saying, that it's all about appropriateness.
Right, exactly. So if you see appropriate, you know, patience as appropriate time management, that's absolutely wisdom to me. But in the greater sense of capital P patience, our time management, our appropriate time management is in a life context, which means we have the wisdom to understand that life moves and there's a sensibility and a grandeur to life, and gifts come our way. We just have to be patient. Our mourners will come. We just have to be patient. Of course, patience does not imply a non-doing. Yes. That's again where we need wisdom to say, yes, I'm patient, but also I'm doing. But I don't stress that my doings aren't enough, because look, like when we start the program, you know, it's like Cheryl, she's starting Wave Impeccability. She's very eager, very enthusiastic. She's very keen, very determined. This is really, really important to her. But of course, because she's diving into it fully and doing it fully, I mean, we spent the whole session on one slide. There's also overwhelm involved. But patience says that, you know, you're doing stuff, but you're not necessarily seeing results. Patience tells you, you will see results, and you're not stressing because you're patient. That's wisdom to me, no? It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, patience is wisdom by implication. Let's put it that way.
It is something like still. I mean, I think that I need more time with that.
Yes, yeah, it's a tricky connection, but it's by implication. You just have to take patience. Just say, okay, what's the implication of it? Oh yes, and then see. So yeah, let's make that. Let's not say it's direct. And when I said that equation, it's one of those loose equations that you have to sort of, you know, see how this is true. So okay, but if you want to make it more precise, patience is wisdom by implication.
I will think about this before completely.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It's shifting your understanding of what you believe patience to be. That's what I'm saying. If you think patience is in any way onerous or stressful, that's not patience. Patience is not just an acceptance of the pacing of life. It is an appreciation that that pacing is good and sensible.
It's like a piece of being, sort of.
Exactly. In that quote earlier, I was saying exactly the first thing. When we are in patience, we are actually in appreciation, and we are in joy as well, and we are in peace, and we are inside love, because we are in the rightness of the world, and thus in attunement, and therefore all is good and right in the world. So to truly have capital P patience, we first have to accept or see and understand that all is good in the world and life, which is again wisdom, no?
Yeah, maybe. I'm still, for me, the wisdom, I feel like I still have a lot of thinking to do on what I think wisdom.
I love it.
Maybe.
Yeah. Again, you know, I'm just thinking, I'm taking it in the sense that it's a very subtle point, but you cannot have wisdom without patience. You cannot have impeccability without patience. For that matter, you're not likely to have any much success in your love if you don't have patience, or relationships. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
You're impatient in your relationships, going to cause a lot of problems, no? Because isn't impatience at root and arrogance?
Right.
Which isn't that kind of what's that?
It's hard for me. It's hard for me to agree with blanket statements.
Yeah, I agree. It's good. It's good. Yeah, I'm throwing them out there. I agree. Yeah.
It's not that I'm disagreeing. I'm just thinking.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. No, and I would hope you don't. I know I say yes as a reflex thing. But for me, you know, impatience is an absolute arrogance, because I'm expecting the world to work according to my schedule.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking through the concept of the idea that love without patience is completely impossible, or that
not impossible, but difficult or problematic. Yeah.
Right. I'm thinking through those kinds of things.
Yeah. So. Yeah. You know, love and relationships, to me, absolutely. Patience is so critical in those. That's why I call it a superpower. It really is in everything, no matter what you do. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right. I'll leave that for you guys to ponder. This connection between patience and wisdom, or patience and sobriety, or patience and appropriateness, all the same, really. I love it. Very cool. Well, patience is such a superpower. I just don't get it.
It is okay. So in many situations, I feel that yes, it's a superpower. But this making connection to to everything, it's still I'm not completely getting this, how it is. Of course, it's not like, okay, there is no more negative association with that, which I had before with patients. But still, I feel that the relationship with wisdom, and in relationship with love and everything, patience is not something. It's like a bit of contradiction there, I feel that.
A contradiction between what and what, Beena?
With wisdom and with patience. It's okay. I just want to think more about this again.
Yeah, good. Okay, so a break so we can shift to the capital diplomacy. I have a joke for Erica.
Yes.
Right. I'll share screen. I have a joke for you, Erica.
Okay.
This is in the freedom from anxiety and worry course, right at the end. It's kind of the closing deal here, or close to the end. So, you know, let's read it in context. Can you see?
I can, but I've got to move some stuff out of the way.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Interesting.
I find it very amusing in the context of an anxiety and worry program, don't you?
Yeah, I'm not sure I get it, but yeah.
So why are you afraid of skydiving? I'm worried my parachute won't open. Nah, no need to worry at all. You'll have the rest of your life to fix it.
Yeah, I mean, if you die, then you won't. So I guess, I don't know. I guess I'm not understanding the joke.
Well, I mean, yes, I mean, you can have the rest of your life as you fall to your death. Exactly.
Right.
It's a stupid joke. It's a stupid joke, but you know that the rest of your life is when you fall to your death. But
Right.
yeah, so yeah, it's an idiot joke, but I know it's just about worries. Like, you know, you've got in the context of parachuting, you don't have the rest of your life to fix things or
Right.
deal with stuff. But in the context of regular living, you do. So stop
True.
worrying. You know, it's
True.
not in other words, life is not skydiving. So stop worrying.
That's true. Okay. With that text, yes, I get it.
Right. So I kind of give the worry pots a bit of a hard time. I'm a boss on them sometimes. So I put a bit of pressure in them, you know, because a lot of worrying is just about indulgence, really. So all sorts of silly reasons for worrying. All right. Well, that's all I wanted to say. The lame joke, yeah. Because again, the worry pots always say, but I'm gonna fall to my death. You know, and it's like, yeah, but you know, chill out a little bit. You don't have to worry about everything. You're not skydiving.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
All right, cool. So where were we on the slide?
Okay. Let me get through my notes.
I'm excited about this connectivity with capital P patients. Just exploding. Really, that's what I was doing. I was taking capital P patients, and you know, like you explode the diagrams of a car, and you see all the parts. Well, I was doing the same thing with patients. You know what I mean? When they explode the car and you see all the parts named like that. Well, if you do that with patients, you get to all sorts of magical stuff.
Yeah.
Go into the depths of it. It's very cool. And that's really how I get to it's connected to wisdom by implication, not directly, but by implication.
Right.
All right. We were in module 1, slide, I don't know, slide much.
We were in the middle of the tasks and exercises in the perspective shifting section.
You know what slide, Beena?
Sorry?
What slide are we on with Erica?
Yeah, let me check that.
Perspective shifting. Here we go. All right, slide 26.
Okay. Okay, the question we left off on was, is there any diplomacy to focusing on or highlighting right or wrong? And I said, the first thing that comes to mind is that perhaps focusing on an alternative perspective to traditional right and wrong would be diplomatic or could be in appropriate circumstances. For many people, I think the idea of universal right and wrong, or right and wrong, which is decided via superiority in some manner, is a concept that few likely see as a belief which can or should be changed, and even fewer actually challenge it. So as a form of diplomacy, offering the alternative perspective that perhaps there's a different way may actually help others see a bit of their own awareness.
Exactly. All right. So I would say if you focus on right or wrong, don't you by implication also now introduce contention to some degree?
If you're, yeah, I mean, if you're focusing on right or wrong
by implication
in a traditional context,
yeah, by implication there's a competition. All right, so we're discussing colors. Let's say we have a conference on colors, and then some idiot comes along and says, well, you know, what are the right and what are the wrong colors? Boom, there goes your conference. It's an idiotic thing. Because immediately you are now bringing in contention when everybody was, well, what are you talking about? There's no right and wrong when it comes to colors. They're all right, for crikey's sake.
Right.
There's no such thing as a bad color or a good color. They're all good. End of story, right? So if we think of this and treat our perspectives as colors, beliefs as colors, the whole thing shifts. And right and wrong, we throw it right out and we get to understanding instead.
Right.
And we just eliminate contention, which now makes our diplomacy so much easier because we're all in agreement, essentially.
Right.
What are we disagreeing about? What's the problem? Nothing. Just we celebrate the difference. Bingo, right away. So the moment you say, oh, you know, that's right. The moment then I'm by implication, if I say, oh, that's right, am I not saying you might be wrong? Which is also saying by implication, I'm judging your answers, your responses, your sharing. Yeah.
Right.
So immediately we create a problem when we bring right or wrong into matters.
Right.
So it's sort of antithetical to capital diplomacy to bring right and wrong into it in any way, even if in that casual way like that. Yeah.
Right.
That interesting. Or agree or disagree. Same thing. Oh, I agree. Well, that means you could potentially disagree rather than saying, oh, that's interesting. The default response of the diplomat.
Right.
Yes. I mean, look at poor old Spock. I mean, every time he said, oh, interesting, he was saying that idiotic humans, right? It's the implications that are the problem.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean, if we can unhook people from their innate competitiveness and this win mentality, we really start to get somewhere. I mean, just look at our politics. It's all about win. My team, I got to win. It doesn't matter how stupid my team is, they have to win because you cannot lose. To be a loser is the worst thing in the world in life, right? So I'm willing to tolerate any manner of just absolute idiocy and inanity and ridiculousness and absurdity and lies and crookedness in order to win, because I have to win. If you really look at the Republican Party, it's absolutely premised on this absolute insistence on winning. Look at all the gerrymandering, win, and their
Right.
voters sorted. They don't care as long as we win. Straightforward.
Right.
Straightforward. And again, if you have this in any situation that requires diplomacy, as a matter of fact, when this is present, it automatically starts to require diplomacy because you lost before you started with that mindset, because truth and honesty and integrity have all been sacrificed to the wins mindset, yes? Or at least to the win at all cost mindsets. But typically
Right.
when people are involved in winning, they are, even if it's not at all costs, they are quite willing to fudge and distort things. You know, depends on the degree, depends on the matter of integrity, depends on the degree, but nonetheless, always people are willing to fudge, typically when they're in this win mindset.
Mhm.
So it's completely already, just when that's present, we typically require diplomacy already. Yeah.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. So when we see this and we make an effort just in general to apply capital diplomacy preemptively, we just do not connect to this right or wrong or agree or disagree. We rather go to the sharing of colors, multiple perspectives, not just one. Because if you do only one extra perspective, then you typically have that to be now in contrast, which is going to be assumed to be in opposition, which is because it's just a mindset. It thinks in right or wrong, black and white. So now it's automatically assumed to be contrary when it's not. But multiple perspectives, you can't assume them necessarily to be directly opposite.
Right.
So right, wrong, agree, disagree, they're antithetical to capital diplomacy.
Right.
Antithetical, I should.
For sure.
Isn't that exciting?
It is. It makes sense.
It's just nice to be aware of, because like I said, we can be preemptive. If there is this in a general discussion, let's say you just at a party, get together with your friends, whatever, and if you start throwing out the multiple perspectives in order to preemptively prevent right, wrong, agree, disagree discussions, You're already stopping the problems before they even had a chance to start. Yeah.
Right.
How cool is that? How was your visit, by the way, to the friends? How did that go? Keen to hear details.
The what now?
You, Kay said you went to visit somebody. I don't know, Cody and somebody. I don't know, some friends.
Oh,
You
last
nodded
weekend?
like it was good and exciting and cool
Yeah.
and fun.
It was good.
Was there any specific opportunities for application of anything, not just way capital diplomacy, but way of impeccability or anything?
I'm sure there was, but part of the point of that visit was to just sort of relax and not do a lot of deep, heavy thinking.
Good.
Just
Good.
celebrate and enjoy. That was his birthday visit, so it was intended to just eat and get in the hot tub and have fun and not do a whole lot
Excellent.
of, you know,
Excellent.
crazy.
Actually, that's what I'm kind of hoping to ask. I'm hoping to hear it was about simple, organic, innate, automatic application, and you had fun without needing to think and you know, concern yourself or have worries or whatever,
Yep.
without that need to be hyper concerned or whatever. Yeah, without thinking. Yeah, so that's what happened.
Yep.
It just flowed. Cool.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Brilliant. I just like to hear that you had fun too.
Yeah, we did. We had a great time.
Brilliant. Joe also.
Mhm. Yeah, it was really fun.
That's fantastic. It's nice. I'm hoping now, you know, as with the vaccines and everything, you guys will get more opportunity to get out more. Yeah.
Me too.
Oh, good.
I'm ready for it.
Good.
No, we're all. Well, all the neighbors. My phone is like buzzing every 2 seconds. All the neighborhood women are talking about things
What are they
again.
talking about? I want to hear.
All manner of different things. Pet sitting, and someone's giving away some chairs, and someone else is asking about it. Yeah, there's just lots and lots of random nonsense.
Interesting. Do you connect to them a bit more now or not?
Not really, but
They're a challenge. They're a capital diplomacy challenge, yeah.
well, I don't know, not necessarily a diplomacy challenge. They're interesting people, but
well, in a subtle way, in the sense that if you get pulled into what they do and how they do, it will be compromising to you in some way. So in order to not get sucked in and not be compromised, both of those require capital diplomacy to extricate, but yet stay involved. Yes.
right. Yeah. Diplomacy requires diplomacy.
Don't you think the entire interaction with them requires diplomacy in some way?
Maybe. I don't know. That's another one I'm going to have to think about and file away.
I mean, if you had your preference, you would have had, you know, you wouldn't be involved at all because the stuff that they're doing, it's not really pertinent and relevant to you, no? And they kind of thinking and mindset and interests and all of that.
Right. I
really your
need
thing.
to decide if I need to think about whether or not that's something I would normally categorize as diplomacy. So my brain is just kind of thinking that over. So
I mean, let's put it this way. You at least from what you shared before, that you have to sort of be careful not to, you know, get them upset or bothered or think that you're rude or stuff like that. If you're trying to make sure that somebody does not perceive you as being rude, when really it's just that you don't share their interests. You're not anti it, you just don't share it. But so you have to be careful that they don't think you anti. So isn't that when you're being considerate towards them?
whoops, lost you. I still don't hear anything.
That was fine. Just I get so few phone calls. I didn't know how to not accept it.
Oh,
I had to figure out how to click when it say, oh, reject. All right. Wasn't sure how to do that. So I'm just intrigued, you know, that this might potentially be an opportunity for very subtle diplomacy with them.
right.
Because you're really being considerate towards them, right?
Yes. I don't know. I'm not disagreeing that this is
Sure,
diplomacy.
sure. I love this. I love it.
I
Like
just
it's actually super
think it's
thoughtful in this mode
true,
today.
so, you know,
I love it. It's very cool. Very cool. It's intriguing. It's intriguing.
yeah, for
I
sure.
like that because I think, at least from what you shared before, since you aren't fully in sync with what they do, and they're trying to sort of rope you in, and it's you have to do things to not have them think that you're being unfriendly or whatever.
Right.
That's capital diplomacy right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And there you're being considerate, really.
Yeah.
Oh,
That makes
very cool.
sense. That makes sense.
It's going to be fun when you do interact with them going forward to see how the capital diplomacy applies.
Yeah. For
This
sure.
this is one particular example where it comes in massively useful, particularly in neighborhood associations where they are kind of not where you are at. Very powerful.
For sure.
What?
Sorry, Bandit is he's licking himself over there and driving me crazy. So I'm trying to get him to stop.
Very cool. Very cool. Very cool.
Okay, the next question was share examples of perspective shifting and how it's been useful to you. And that is such a, I mean, there's like a million
Yeah, just a
examples.
few.
So I said virtually everything in my fractal conceptions list, I think, is a perspective shift of some sort. Some are context shifts, I think, but similar concept. So I said my new perspectives on choice, trust, love, universal right and wrong, shadow self, all of those things have all been extremely useful perspective shifts for me. And they've shifted, or as have my perspective shifts on myself and my own self-conception.
Good.
Yeah,
Cool.
A
Very cool.
vast majority of the things that have been really useful to me from related stuff have all been perspective.
Yes. That's a powerful statement. The vast majority of things which have been useful to me or very useful to me have involved perspective shifting. Yes, absolutely. For me too.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
It's huge.
Yeah, perspective shifting is that magic wand. It's really a magic wand, yeah.
It's true. It's a huge component of the learning process for me at this point.
A critical component, not just huge, but critical. Everything we do in Wave Impeccability Mourner's project, absolutely everything is absolutely dependent on the ability to perspective shift.
Exactly. I was thinking if there is anything else other than perspective shifting or not.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly.
Very cool indeed.
Okay, so then the next section, still module 1, was humility. And so my takeaway from this section was, for me, this session touches on an interesting nuance of dealing with the superiority complex. To me, the point being made here is that although diplomats do not adhere to the beliefs of the superiority paradigm and don't operate within its bounds, part of being diplomatic is recognizing that many others do.
Yes.
Cause someone else to lose face is an offense which some will never let go,
Exactly.
making diplomacy nearly, if not completely, unachievable with them. So those practicing diplomacy, rather than forcing themselves into the space of the superiority paradigm, instead cue others to rise above the paradigm with them. as we've talked about before, deliberately focusing on whatever good is present in another and deliberately de-emphasizing everything else cues others to behave in such a way that emphasizes their goodness.
That emphasizes what?
Their goodness.
Yes. Yes.
And I think,
yes.
I mean, to me, it was really interesting to me that for me was the overwhelming sort of point of this section. And that's such an interesting, non-obvious aspect of humility to me, that
yes.
the
yes.
connection with humility there is to say it is being appropriately humble to be respectful of the rules that other people are operating by, even when it's not something you agree with, basically.
Yeah.
Because you are not making the assumption that what is right and good for you is also right and good for everyone else. That, you know, and if I'm saying, well, your rule, you know, you believe in the superiority paradigm, you operate within the rules of the superiority paradigm, and that's stupid and wrong. So I'm not gonna, you know, I'm not gonna meet you where you are. I'm not gonna play by your rules. You need to play by mine. Is not, you know, that's
not at all. Exactly.
And even though, you know, it's just that's such an interesting nuance of it to me, that it's not, and being diplomatic is not saying I agree with you that the superiority paradigm is appropriate and operate by these rules. It's understanding that that's where this person is right now. And so there are certain things that I need to do and adhere to in order to appropriately connect with this person and have a chance to diplomatically offer alternatives and do something useful with this connection. And that's a really interesting and very, for me, I think a very nuanced aspect of humility.
Yes, 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 yes. And actually we are going to leverage humility in, let's say, a BMN or a narcissist, yeah?
Right.
Because they are so dependent. Our understanding of the superiority paradigm, again, as diplomats here, we need to, we cannot have capital diplomacy without understanding superiority paradigm. You're going to be lost if we start.
Right.
So we know that they are absolutely, obsessed with approval.
Right.
And we are going to give them the appearance or the idea through cueing, through focusing on their goodness.
Right.
We are going to create this bubble in which we say, oh, you get to be, look like and appear humble,
right.
which you're going to get great shine out of. You're going to get great kudu. Diplomacy, in a sense, leverages, or can leverage approval in a peculiar way to get people to behave sensibly. And in this case, we can even cue humility, which is fascinating. When we actually do succeed in this, to actually get a BMN and an egotist to behave humbly, because of course they're looking to score points, ego approval points. Doesn't matter. The end result in the context of diplomacy is what matters to us, right?
For sure.
Isn't that fascinating? Yeah. It is to me. It is absolutely ridiculously fascinating to me.
Yeah, me too.
And here's the key point, though, right? Sorry, I need to elaborate just a little bit on this. It is absolutely has to be connected to our nobility. Our nobility, because we have this nobleness of soul and largesse of spirit, we treat that BMN absolutely 100% sincerely in this assumption of humility, let's say. They see that I truly see them this way. And I do. Now, yes, I am being true to this particular angular perspective of them, this isolated focus. I am saying, yes, I see your humility as being a legitimate part of you. I am aware in the very back recesses of my mind that in general, this is not a part of you that is emphasized. It's generally non-existent. That doesn't mean it isn't an actual part of you. I am now saying it is, and I'm treating you as if this was all the time. And I know I'm doing this deliberately. I'm giving you the benefit of that. I do not know as a fact that you don't exercise humility. You may appear to be a BMN just because you've been taught to be this, but in actuality, you're a very humble soul. I don't know. So it's very convenient for me, despite your behavior, to assume this, but I do so utterly sincerely. And that nobility to be, that is what enables us to treat them sincerely as being humble in the context of the environment of the interactions with us.
Right.
So we cue it, we shape it, we create space for it, we do all sorts of magical things in order to get there. You know, we're combining capital H hearing and cueing and capital D diplomacy. All of this gets combined in this, but its nobility is a big part of that, very big part.
Yeah.
Well, making a homemade milkshake over here.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to stir. You know, I just mix the cocoa powder, but a Milo, which is sort of like a chocolate drink mix thing.
Okay.
South African. It's very cool stuff. Anyway, and then, you know, with sugar, and I made a little paste, and then I put the ice cream in and poured the milk on top of it, and then I kind of squashed the ice cream, you know, to get it to break up.
Right.
And it worked. I wasn't sure how easy it was going to get to be liquid, but it did. So
There you go.
cool. Yeah. Taste milkshakey.
Well.
I'm also celebrating a festival, by the way.
Oh yeah.
What's your festival month called, Beena? Your celebration month?
That Yamadan.
Beena?
Yes, that Yamadan.
Say again?
Yamadan.
But I'm celebrating Yamadan. Beena is celebrating Ramadan or Ramazan, as she says it. So I like Yamazan. Yeah. You know, Y-U-M, Yamazan. I bought a box of goodies because I wanted to get some biltong, which is that, you know, South African jerky, but they don't compress it. It's just air dried. It's gourmet jerky. There's nothing. Jerky can't compare. It's not even close. And dried sausage and some other stuff that I got from them. So I got a whole box of goodies, in other words, yesterday. I should have taken a picture, Beena. I had it all laid out. I didn't think to take a snapshot. Anyway, it's very, very fun. Rusks and chocolates and all sorts of magical stuff. So I'm celebrating Yamazan because it's all yummy goodies.
I like it. That's awesome.
And of course, Ramazan is characterized by fasting. So it's the very opposite of Ramazan.
Wow. What did you say, Beena?
I was just saying that he was teasing me and Kay yesterday by showing all these celebrating food. And it was like, okay, look at this. And Kay was saying, seriously, Sil, I'm counting everything. And now you're showing me chocolates and everything.
Yeah, so counting calories. Yeah.
Yes.
I just love this humility part connected to this capital D diplomacy. I just love that. I'm still feeling that because for me, the most important part in this whole capital D diplomacy was that it is not a regular diplomacy. We are not trying to influence any other person by any means.
Right.
It was really interesting and also that most impactful idea about the diplomacy. Now, when I think about like, okay, how much we do that in our regular life, this whole capital D diplomacy, how much it is needed and how much we actually apply that. I was seeing that because it was my sisters shared with me that about some people who were in critical condition before hospitalized and all that, and I see that there was whenever we say something about patients in the critical condition and the hospitals, we expect kind of diplomacy from the doctors and medical staff.
Right.
And it is part of their duty that they have to be really practice adamance, but also they do practice capital D diplomacy.
Right.
Kindergarten teachers, they practice big time that.
Yeah.
But it has to be impeccable very, very critically, because otherwise you are actually influencing children's mind and even patients in that. When you connect it to the humility, then it all makes sense that how it has to be applied. So
yeah.
So beautiful what you shared.
Yeah, I like the nuance of how you really, elaborated and elucidated how that section on humility connects to capital D diplomacy.
That was really interesting. When I read through the section and pulled out, what really stood out to me the most, it was so interesting to me that the overarching concept was humility, because that wasn't an obvious, like at first glance, that wouldn't have been an obvious connection for me. But no, having that as the title of the section and then going back and saying, okay, how does what I took away relate to humility? That was really interesting. It was a very nuanced form of humility, I think, but it totally makes sense that would be a critical aspect of being able to truly be diplomatic.
Yeah. All right, so keep this in mind with humility when we get to the next module.
Okay.
Just keep humility in mind.
Okay.
And why humility does not become a liability as it so easily could. The next session, it balances and provides that capital B balance for humility not to be a liability.
Right.
As in being seen as a weakness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very easy. In BMN company, you humble, oh, here we got a sucker. This is to be pecked on, but not for, not in our context of capital D diplomacy, and particularly in the context of how the new nobility operate with their particular stance. You'll see. Okay, just keep it in. Make a note there. Yeah.
Okay.
Module 2, see humility.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the first task question was, watch or share from memory how an argument is more about maintaining ego and image than it is about the point itself. How would you deal with this? And for me, pretty much the perfect example of that was any argument that Phil, any argument that took place with Phil. He's just the perfect example of someone who would break.
I thought you said soul. I thought, what are you talking about?
He would break his own logic bubbles all the time. There was no rhyme or reason to virtually any of his arguments. So he was a good example for me to think of. There were many that I could pull from, but I said, I think one point being suggested in this session is that any argument which seeks to prove the rightness of the speaker or the wrongness of the listener is based in maintaining ego rather than making an objective point. I think offering alternative perspectives in a non-directly challenging way is certainly one way to proceed, such as, that's an interesting perspective. What about XYZ? Or have you considered this? Also asking based on what kind of questions to get to the root of the person's beliefs might also be helpful in that kind of instance. But I think it's also important to recognize when someone's motivation is proving their rightness or superiority and or maintaining faith above all else, to the point that no manner of reasoning or logic will have an effect, as I believe an appropriate part of diplomacy is also recognizing when your energy is being inappropriately spent.
Your energy is being inappropriately
spent.
Oh, sent.
Spent.
Wow.
Spent. Spending energy.
Oh, spent. Yes. Yeah.
And I added that in because, I had been using Phil as an example in this thing. And I think, obviously there are times where you find yourself in a situation where you're having to interact with someone, whether it's really your choice or not. And at that point, you can use diplomacy to help ease the situation. But there are other times where you may have a choice in whether or not to engage with a person. And, in those cases, when it's a choice, that part of diplomacy is recognizing, or part of sort of appropriately wielding diplomacy as a tool is recognizing when no matter how much you may try to sort of offer alternatives or whatever, it's not going to get through to this person. And so, you know, it's time to cut the losses.
Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Yes. Knowing when to step away, in other words,
Right.
Very critical to diplomacy. Yeah. And even more so, I would say, being preemptive with people like Phil.
Right.
To not get into a situation where they are defending themselves and their ego at all costs. When you get to that point, it's lost already.
Right.
Yeah. But they're quite willing to, at the same token, to let their points and arguments shift and change when they are looking to maintain a good opinion of them.
Right.
In other words, when they're not defensive.
That
And if we in that state, preemptively getting them to shift to be, essentially they end up sort of agreeing to everything and they're not being a problem. And we don't really care because that's their nature. They don't really have fixed ideas and beliefs and morals. They just will of the wind, but they're not a problem.
that was part of the problem that Mom and I had, I think, in dealing with Phil was there was literally no rhyme, reason, consistency, anything in terms of what set him off and what didn't. So you would think